No. Why? Why can't I win? Screamed a voice that rippled through the open classroom. In the room were three boys and a single girl, huddling around a large desk marked with geographic symbols and pawns to represent the positions of soldiers. These pieces were intended for tabletop military exercises. That makes 32 losses out of 32. I thought I had the blood of our proud troops running through my veins, but it turns out I'm a total disgrace, wailed one of the members, the heaviest boy out of their group of four named Glenn. Get a grip, Glenn. You keep getting caught in the same way, spoke the twiggy boy across from him. His name was Strang. If you can't win with force, you gotta consider other strategies. I mean, staying the course sounds good in theory, but you're just being careless, especially if your stubbornness keeps you from improving. Plus, this inflexibility will cost you the lives of tens of thousands of soldiers. Jeez, I know. You think I can't even count the lives of my comrades? You think I'm a beast? Well, even an animal would learn after 30 losses, which makes you worse. Listening to their conversation, the third boy burst into laughter. Wayne. He's tearing you a new one, Glenn. Is your lineage just for show? Damn you, Wayne. I won't forgive anyone who dares insult me, much less my family. Hey, I know you're frustrated that you're the family disappointment, but don't take it out on me. You weasel. You're having the time of your life humiliating me. I'm having a blast. You're asking for it, asshole. And that began their little scuffle. From a short distance away, Ninim looked on with a smile at their day-to-day shenanigans at the Imperial Military Academy. This can only be settled with a duel. Let's take this outside, Wayne. Seriously? You're asking to duke it out because you can't win a tabletop battle? And might I mention that's your specialty? What happened to honor? What happened to pride? Strang interjected. Not so fast, Wayne. It's the most basic of tactics to circumvent your weaknesses and use your strengths to overcome the enemy. And pride has more to do with victory than anything else. Oh, didn't think you used that argument. But if you're calling this strategy, I'm not obliged to approach it head on. You're right, Strang nodded before shaking his head dramatically. Well, I can see why you'd shit your pants thinking about going up against Glenn. What? I mean, he was the first one to make you eat dirt, even though you scored the highest in almost every class. What did you just say about me? I don't blame you, man. It's the most basic of tactics to steer clear of your weaknesses. What the hell did you just say about me? Wayne screeched. What are you talking about, you little shit? I've got no reason to be scared. Who told you that? I could knock the hell out of Glenn with one clean hit. Bullshit. Your swordsmanship is so pathetic you'll never be a match for me, even if you practice for 100 years. Like hell. I was reckless before, but if I go all out, I'll beat the living crap out of you. Wayne, called out Ninim, who'd been observing quietly until then. What is it? You're not going to tell me to quit before I lose, are you? Well, I wouldn't stop you for that. I'd love to see him take you down a notch or two. Then what? Behind you, Ninim pointed. Along with the other two boys, Wayne turned toward the door to the classroom and spotted a young girl who looked familiar. She was a student at the academy too, but he'd never interacted with her before. In fact, no one in that room had any connection with this girl. Can I help you? Wayne vocalized their thoughts. Under their collective gaze, she answered, I'm curious about you all. Will you let me observe you? Wayne exchanged glances with the others. Watch us. I don't think you'll find this very interesting. It's not true at all. With lithe steps, she came to stand in front of Wayne. I can see how you lot are the troublemakers of the school. The rumors were certainly accurate. I mean, even from this exchange, I can see you're all very entertaining. Entertaining, huh? Wayne's mouth twisted. Well, anyone who thinks that as their first impression is either a rotten asshole or an idiot with a false sense of superiority. What do you think? In spite of this verbal assault, she flashed a smile. Her demeanor was as far from faltering as possible. Agreed. Well, I guess I should add that I'm actually superior to you. I see. You're a fun one. Wayne grinned and offered his hands. I'm Wayne, a worthless commoner. Loa Phelbis, the insignificant daughter of a noble family in the countryside. Wayne Selema Arbalest, and Lowell Mina Earthworld. And this was how two members of royalty spent time together, hiding behind their false identities. The banquet was to welcome and entertain the envoys went off without a hitch from start to finish. It wasn't surprising, since the kingdom of Natra and the Empire were on good terms, with compatible values. And the purpose of the diplomatic visit was to discuss the potential union of the Crown Prince and Imperial Princess. It was an auspicious occasion. No one in attendance was in the mood to stir up any unnecessary trouble. Of course, that wasn't the only reason this banquet was going swimmingly. As the hosts, the kingdom staffers had put in significant effort to prevent any trivial offenses. By dipping liberally into their dwindling supply of time and money, they were meticulous in perfecting every detail, from carefully selecting those in attendance to the proper cuisine, cutlery, and tablecloths. Of particular note were the dishes, which had been chosen based on Wayne and Nim's input. I must admit my surprise that we're able to enjoy imperial cuisine in your kingdom. Princess Lowell Minos smiled from her seat as the guest of honor, speaking to Wayne, who was sitting directly across from her. I thought you might long for a taste of home after a long journey. For tonight I imagined it might suit your palate better than our traditional fare. I appreciate your consideration, Prince Wayne. These genteel interactions between the two most important people in the room were one of the reasons for the relaxed mood, allowing the room to buzz with comfortable conversation among the attendees. Wow, I've heard the rumors, but Princess Lowell Mina is absolutely lovely. Well, let me just say that Prince Wayne is as magnanimous as I've heard from others. I am in complete admiration for his marvelous work in His Royal Majesty's stead, and it appears their conversation is flowing. I imagine they will make a splendid couple once they tie the knot. Indeed. By the way, I appreciate that you've considered our party's fatigue when preparing this feast, but I must admit I'm disappointed that I missed out a chance to sample your traditional flavors. Not to worry, we thought this might be the case and prepared our local cuisine too. I'll have them bring it out. The party was continuing with no trouble at all, well on the surface. Now what do we have here? Wayne thought as he spoke with Lowell Mina. He remembered something that happened before the soiree. It's a trap, like 1,000%, whined Wayne, slumped in his chair in the office, looking like the world would end at any moment. Any possibility that we can pretend this is all a dream? Nope. I knew it. With his hands clutched in his skull, Wayne slammed his head into his desk. Next to him, Nim had on a troubled expression. To think Loa was the imperial princess. I investigated the backgrounds of your friends, but I guess I fell for misinformation. That's on me. After their sudden reunion, Wayne had managed to keep it together to welcome the head of the delegation, Princess Lowell Mina. At the moment, she was taking a quick break in the room prepared for her. Following this was the scheduled banquet, where Wayne was expected to formally welcome the princess and establish their connection. Keyword: expected. An aristocrat in the countryside? Oh, come on. Lying when you're a part of the most powerful family in the whole friggin' empire. If you've got blue blood, just attend school without hiding it. Wayne, that could be said about you, too, Nim interrupted with composure, but he wailed nonetheless. Oh, why'd things turn out like this? All I wanted to do was marry an imperial princess and sail into the sunset to live out my lazy days. That's not necessarily out of the question yet. This doesn't change the fact that the imperial princess came to Natra to discuss your hand in marriage. The only twist is that she's Loa. Which is the biggest problem of them all, Wayne shouted. Remember what happened after she joined our group at the military academy? We ended up in one risky situation after the next. Oh, I could never forget. Mobilizing villagers to suppress bandits, impeaching corrupt bureaucrats, seizing smuggled goods from crooked merchants to sell off ourselves. Now that I think about it, we seriously went through some stuff. Yeah, all thanks to Loa. Upon joining their little clique, Loa would find and bring every problem that had the potential for their group to intervene. At the time, he'd wondered how she managed to sniff out these situations, but in hindsight, Wayne guessed she'd collected information from all over the place by leveraging her position as a princess. I mean, these tasks were obviously super dangerous, but Glenn and Strang always went along with her. That's why we were constantly on the verge of getting expelled. I remember you were the most into it. Wayne averted his gaze. Nanim clamped both hands to his cheeks, so he had no choice but to meet her eyes. Well, like she'd suggest things like swapping the painting of a creepy aristocrat with a counterfeit to humiliate him, which sounds like so much fun. Like, duh, of course I'd be up for it. And I was the one who had to suffer while cleaning up your messes. Oh, just thinking about it is getting me riled up. Okay, back on topic. Wayne forcibly commanded, moving on. To Loa, conspiring comes as naturally as breathing. There's no way that she came here just to talk. She's got something brewing, no question about it. I have no objections, and I guess this means your original hypothesis was correct. Nanim stretched out his cheeks. Our newest piece of information is that Loa is the princess. Other than that, the situation hasn't changed. Her motives are still up in the air. We need to do some more digging to find out what's on her mind. How long is the envoy staying? 2 weeks. That's the plan. Which is long enough to suggest they're definitely scheming, Wayne lamented down in the dumps. Nanim's profile was marked with caution. She must have something in mind. As host, you'll be entertaining at several events. It shouldn't be difficult to make contact, except finding out her true motives will be harder than boiling the ocean. Well, in the near future, there's no doubt she'll be gorged on food. Guess I should hope that will make her loose-lipped. Nanim shrugged. You can't just hope for a slip of the tongue. You need to extract it out of her. It's almost time. Wayne nodded and rose to head toward the banquet hall with Nanim. Which brings us to the next scene. Wayne sat in front of Loelmina. Guess I've got no choice but to draw it out of her. Based on her behavior, Loelmina didn't seem like the type to let loose in formal settings, as she did at the academy. Wayne had no problem with that. It enabled him to use his princely authority to corner her. Princess Loelmina, may I ask if you were the one who suggested this visit? Yes, you might tease me for acting in a way unbefitting of an unmarried princess, but I wish to meet you in person, Prince Wayne. I would never. To speak to a beautiful woman is the highest honor for any man. But I'm afraid I'm the prince of a minor, remote nation. Why did you want to meet me? My, you're selling yourself short, Loelmina replied, all smiles. After all, we've heard the news of you leading your nation in the stead of your ill father to victory against Marden. As a member of the imperial family, and as a woman, I must admit this piqued my interest. I worry I may disappoint you. What do you think? Have I met the expectations of the Empire? Ah, yes, well, I wouldn't say you've met them exactly, she teased mischievously. After all, you far exceeded them. Well, well, you've got me. Wayne tried to cover his embarrassment with a wry grin, which drew out another faint smile from Loelmina. My older brothers advised me not to come, but I knew this was the right choice. Ah, were you met with opposition? Oh, like you wouldn't even believe. But when I heard you were searching for a princess, I couldn't help myself. To be honest, my brothers were the ones who lent me their people to act as my envoys. I told them a smaller number would have sufficed, but they insisted it was dangerous. Wouldn't you agree that they're being overprotective? Wayne replied as if troubled. As an older brother myself, I'm afraid I must side with the imperial princes. Ah, yes, you have a younger sister. My pride and joy. I shall introduce you to as early as tomorrow. In the back of his mind, Wayne ruminated on Loelmina's words. Everything could be attributed to her recklessness. If this matter was analyzed in a straightforward manner, in the throes of puberty, Loelmina had been wooed by a foreign prince and forcibly invited herself to his castle, traveling abroad with her delegation. At least that's the cover story she used to get her way. Of course, Wayne didn't believe her story for a millisecond. Except for one thing. It was extremely likely that her envoys were the subordinates of her brothers, seeing that she wouldn't have had enough people reporting to her directly. Even though she was imperial royalty, she was still a young girl and the youngest of 5 after all. If she's intentionally offering me this information, that could only mean. Their conversation continued as the gears turned in his head. That said, Natra is far colder in the winter than I'd expected. It must come as quite a shock. After all, our steep mountains and harsh weather are all we have that the Empire lacks. Well, we're still at the beginning of winter. It gets colder than this. In the middle of winter, wind-blown trees often freeze solid in the snow. That's winter in Natra for you. This was enough for a troubled look to wash over her face, triggering a new idea in Wayne's mind. Aha! If it interests you, I can send you our traditional garb. I know imperial attire is sturdy and beautifully designed, but it may not offer you respite from the weather in Natra. I appreciate your kindness. You're correct in observing that our clothing hasn't been enough to keep out the wind, to our dismay. With that, Lowell gave a playful wink. And am I right to assume you'll choose something that'll look good on me? Oh dear. As a man, I can't refuse this request. It appears I must go all out. I look forward to it. After that, the pair continued to talk of inconsequential subjects until it was time for Wayne to give his closing remarks. When he brought the banquet to an end, it was already late in the evening. To welcome a foreign guest of honor, the exclusive suite set aside for Lowell was prepared to a degree of perfection that even the imperial princess could appreciate. It wasn't showy or resplendent, but it was spotless from corner to corner. On the walls hung tasteful pieces of antique art. Through the window the starlight softly illuminated the room as if in a dream, and just outside the light of scattered bonfires flickered in the dark night. She imagined her time in this room would be quiet but comfortable. Just as Lowell came to this conclusion, a knock sounded at the door. When she granted entry, an attendant entered the room. I apologize for interrupting your rest, Princess Lowell. A gift from Prince Wayne, the attendant explained, signaling the trunks outside the door. Each was large enough for a person to fit inside. 3 in total. We've done a thorough investigation. They contain clothes. Oh, I didn't think they would arrive this quickly. Please bring them inside. Understood. The attendant called for a few other servants to complete her request. Would you like to try a few of them on? No, I'll do that tomorrow. Please leave me for now. Of course. After shooing everyone out of the room, Lowell was alone once again, but she didn't shut her mouth, speaking to the trunks of clothing. All right, you can come out now. The trunk lurched and lifted the lid of its own accord. Phew! A boy inhaled sharply, shoving layers of clothing aside to emerge out of the box. It was Wayne. Dang it, I wanted to prank her. How'd she find out? Another lid creaked open to reveal Nanim. Of course she would. It's so obvious. Maybe next time I'll use a rope to break and enter through the window. Great, and I'll be in charge of sawing the rope in two. Miss Nanim, why so bloodthirsty? Listening to their lively exchange, Lowell chuckled, joining in on their conversation. It's like you two are back at the academy. Can you believe this, Nanim? The imperial princess is laughing at us. By clowning around at that, in my humble opinion, that's a small price to pay. Good point. Lowell burst into laughter, and when she finally caught her breath, she looked at Nanim. I had a chance to greet Wayne earlier, but not you. It's been a while, Nanim. I'm glad to see you're still by his side, and I am pleased to see you in good health, Loa. Or would you prefer Princess Lowell? Oh, don't get all formal with me. We're good friends. Lowell took both of Nanim's hands in hers. Just call me Loa. All right, when we're in private. Lowell nodded and took the pair in. You haven't changed at all. Oh, we have. For example, I've gotten taller and way more handsome. And Nanim has gotten bigger everywhere, other than her boobs. Wait, Nanim! Put that fist down. It was just a playful jab. Which means it's time for me to throw my straight punch, right? Loa, help? Hey, Wayne, do I look any different? Your butt got bigger, I think. Nanim, give him all you've got. Got it. What? Don't tell me my silver tongue isn't effective. Just as Wayne found himself in a real bind, the door to the room clicked open timidly. Princess Lowell, I heard a voice and... What? It was the attendant who delivered the trunks of clothes, eyes wide in surprise upon catching a glimpse at Wayne and Nanim. Their faces were just as shocked. Ambassador Blundell. Standing on the other side of the door was Faish Blundell, the former ambassador who had been stationed in Natra and dismissed after losing in a battle of wits against Wayne. There was no questioning her identity. Excellent timing, Fyshe. Please stand guard outside. If anyone comes, tell them I've retired for the evening. Yes, no, but the prince. Fyshe, Wilhelmina warned, flashing her steely gaze at the confused attendant. She swallowed her response and bowed with reverence. Understood. I'll be right outside the door. Please call if you need anything. I'm counting on you. When Fyshe slipped back through the door, Wilhelmina looked at Wayne, surprised. Yeah, Wayne nodded, but it all makes sense now. I was wondering how Ambassador Talem managed to broach the subject of marriage with the Imperial Princess, but now I get it. It was all through Ambassador Blundell, his predecessor. That's right. She switched from the diplomatic corps to serving at my side. Thanks to a certain someone, she'd been forced to work a menial job, and I managed to talk her into becoming my attendant. Feel free to thank me at any time. I'll forget your insolence from earlier. Yay. But I won't, Ninim chirped. No. Her fist sunk into his cheek. Well, let's sit down before we continue our chat. Yes, let's. Ninim responded to the call by making her way to the unopened third trunk, popping it open to dig inside to fetch wine and a set of glasses. You're prepared. Who's it made by? Wilhelmina asked. Remember when we swapped out a bottle of wine when we were switching the paintings of that aristocrat? It's the very same bottle. Didn't you tell me it was broken in transport? If we break it tonight after we polish it off, there won't be a difference. You really haven't changed. The three sat around the table, pouring wine into glasses placed in front of each person. A toast, Wayne suggested. For what? Wayne grinned. To our reunion, of course. His sonorous voice reverberated across the room.